The traitor legions are heavily varied, with each legion having a different motif or general theme that can be boiled down to a single word. For the Emperor's children, I believe that would be depravity, or for the word bearers, I would say that is truth. The word bearers are a legion that defy convention, and are a truly distinct entity within the pantheon of the Chaos Powers, as the legion itself is not a legion of warriors or soldiers, but of teachers, scholars, and priests. They are not the cornate berserkers of the World Eaters, they are ideological first, and warriors second, and this is what makes them truly unique as a faction. Sure, they will attack planets, but never just because. There is always a larger plan at the head of their actions, and this is how they have always been. During the Unification Wars, the Legion was not known as the Word Bearers, but as the Imperial Heralds, and were tasked with spreading the Imperial Truth. To those who do not know, the Imperial Truth was the ideology the Emperor spread. The idea that there are no gods, no religion, or any higher power. Only what we can see. Rational thought, equality, and science were to replace the superstition and fear that had brought humanity to its knees, and the Word Bearers were the ones who took these ideas seriously the most. Where other legions, say like the Space Wolves, would attack, and after victory they would move on, the Word Bearers were iconoclasts. They were tasked with spreading the ideology of the Imperial Truth, and this meant their intentions for warfare were not just to defeat the enemy, but to demoralize and eradicate any uniqueness that world and its people brought. Put yourselves in the shoes of, say, an average civilian, living your life on a farm or in a hive city, when ships you could only dream of appear in the sky, giant armored men with sigils and runes on their armor, an even larger bald figure at their head, beginning to preach about the glory of their faith, the glory of the Imperium, and the light it shall bring to your ignorant world. But say, those in your government resist. Well, you would witness untold atrocities, leaders executed publicly, history and culture erased as any significant figures, books, or intellectuals within your society are killed, burned, and branded as heretics, and anyone who gives any mild dissension or concern is then branded the same way. But to you is a martyr, a cause to fight for them is a mere statistic, and any sort of dissent or thought is stamped out and exterminated, placed with decades of re-education and brainwashing to become a part of the Imperium of Man, ruled by the God Emperor of mankind, the only true sovereign power in the galaxy. Nay, not the galaxy, but the universe. But despite the equality, logic, and reason his servants preach, all you saw was the violence of barbarians, and the horror and slaughter of your world's identity under the golden light of a madman who only shares his likeness. Now I can imagine many of you went, wait a minute, I thought you said the Emperor said there were no gods. Why are the word bearers spreading the Emperor is a god? Well, I can answer that for you, and that answer comes with the Legion's Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian. Lorgar, unlike his brothers, is not a soldier. Never was one. Even his brother Magnus, who he himself was a philosopher, master psyker, and was drawn to the ideas of knowledge and understanding, was still an able-bodied warrior. Lorgar, however, never saw himself as one. But despite that, he was expected to occupy the role that his other 20 brothers filled, that of a general. But he was first and foremost a man of faith, a shaman, a clergyman, and while initially believing in the power of the Four, basically the Chaos Gods but with different names, he would experience visions of a golden figure on eagle's wings, this being the Emperor of Mankind. By the time he had arrived to meet Lorgar, he was already convinced of the Emperor's divinity. And the reason why Lorgar was so devout and drawn to religion and faith is because from a young age he was nurtured and taught to think like this by his adoptive father, Corferon. When Lorgar landed on the world of Colchis, Corferon took over the role of adoptive father for Lorgar, but in the loosest sense possible, as Corferon was an emotionally manipulative brute. He would smack him around, punish him, and was just completely abusive. He emotionally traumatized Lorgar in ways that he would never come to understand, even going as far as to groom Lorgar for his role as the religious leader of the world, using Lorgar for his skills and talents as a Primarch, and almost nothing else. So while Lorgar was out preaching to many cities on the various continents on the planet of Colchis, often without a single drop of blood being spilled, Corferon was busy killing political enemies and wiping out entire populations that merely disagreed with him, all under Lorgar's nose. During his time as the first captain of the Word Bearers Legion, he would continue to have this type of manipulative influence on Lorgar, albeit less so, but he would secretly spread his belief in the Four, the Chaos Gods basically, despite being tasked with spreading the Imperial Truth, showing more than anything else that he was brainwashed not only by his own beliefs, but was more selfish than anything else, and would only do things that would benefit him in the long term. However, there is another figure that was equally manipulative, and arguably far more dangerous. First Chaplain Erebus. Erebus is someone who I would consider genuinely evil, like the best kind of mustache-twirling, 100% fully cognizant of their own actions evil. He, like Corferon, never truly bought into Lorgar's faith in the Emperor of Mankind. In fact, Erebus only believed in things that would give him some semblance of power. Even as a child, whose name wasn't Erebus, he was told to say, hey, why can't you be like that other child Erebus? So, not Erebus, who is now Erebus, went and killed the original Erebus and just took his name and identity. He is a master manipulator, the perfect kind of neutral evil that will do anything for his best interest. And this included not only manipulating Lorgar, Gorferon, but Horus himself and anyone else that would help him achieve his own ends. So when someone who is a genuinely good human being like Lorgar, driven by the ideas of faith, trying to find the truth, being surrounded and influenced by two of the most slimy people imaginable, things will inevitably go wrong. And throughout the Great Crusade, the Word-Bearers would achieve the fewest compliances out of any legion. But those worlds were rebuilt and made so loyal to the Imperium that even after 10,000 years, they have largely still remained loyal to the Imperium because of the work the Word-Bearers did, despite how zealotous and downright evil their methods were, if they did not get their way. However, this cycle of abuse the Word-Bearers purported would finally be reflected back at them by the Emperor of Mankind himself. On the world of Kur, there was a city named Monarchia. It was the Word-Bearers' crown jewel, their biggest and best city. It was their greatest point of pride. But because of Lorgar's spread of religion, something the Emperor repeatedly told him to stop, which led to superstition amongst the populace, piousness, and things the Emperor explicitly forbade, the Emperor finally had enough, and with the help of the Ultramarines Legion, they would evacuate the city, and summoning the entire Word-Bearers Legion to face judgment. On the sands of Kur, Lorgar and his legion would stand before their golden city, Lorgar arguing with his father and asking why he is denying his divinity. But despite all of Lorgar's pleas for understanding, the Emperor did not listen, and Monarchia was turned to glass as the Emperor of Mankind made every last legionary, including the Primarch himself, kneel through his psychic prowess alone. Imagine erecting a city in the name of your chosen god, dedicating your entire life to him, only for him to destroy it in front of you, and telling you that not only is your faith misplaced, but your faith was never real. That you, in essence, were his greatest failure because of this, and that you never understood his vision. This broke Lorgar. Aside from the devastation, Lorgar was just distraught. His father, his god, hated him. And with that darkness came the two souls that would drive him into the clutches of the four gods of the Old Faith Uncultus. Erebus and Gorferon, operating in opposite to each other, but both seeing the impact this made on Lorgar, began to influence him into looking into the Old Faith. After all, if the Emperor is not a god, despite presenting himself as one, there must be other gods more worthy of his worship. And as such, the Legion and Lorgar would take a pilgrimage, one that would take them into what would become the Bastion world of Cadia, in an attempt to find the truth of the universe, either for himself or to prove the Emperor wrong. This pilgrimage would be under the guise of them revamping their approach to the Great Crusade, putting them in good standing with the Imperium and bringing more worlds into compliance over that period of time more than any other. But as they landed on Cadia, they would meet a woman named Ingethel, who would become anointed and designated by the Chaos Gods as the guide to Lorgar, and Ingethel would reveal the truth of the universe to him, his purpose, the reality of the Emperor, what would come, and why he was the one chosen by the gods to bring about the future that every psychically capable race up till this point failed to do. In this moment, the Word-Bearers, for now and for all time, would be the chosen champions of chaos. Not as the warriors, but as the clergymen and prophets of the great powers. They were the ones who had to start the war against the Imperium. They were the ones who had to spread the word of chaos. And because they would fight for the powers instead of just trying to control the gods or use them, they were the ideal candidates for this task, unlike the selfish and power-hungry individuals that came before them. Species like the Eldar, and even Horus, failed to understand this, as anyone other than Lorgar and the Word-Bearers would have fought for themselves instead of just letting the natural order of things play out. This is why every other species failed to achieve that higher standing within the universe. And if Lorgar and his legion were to pursue this path, they would be more than worshippers, but conduits for the great powers, and servants of the primordial truth of the universe. And to Lorgar, this was all that he ever wanted. Lorgar would accept this knowledge, and bring it to his legion. His greatest champion, Argel Tal, the serrated sun at his side, they would spend the rest of the crusade not as bearers of the word of the Emperor, but bearers of the word of the powers that would truly rule the galaxy. They would spread the warrior lodges, pop up cults on planets like Davin, and slowly but surely, they would sow the seeds of the Horus heresy, until the fateful day Horus was struck with the anathema blade, and the galaxy's fate was altered forever. The Dropsite Massacre would begin, decimating the legions of the Iron Hands, Raven Guard, and Salamanders, with Lorgar himself fighting Corvus Corax, and almost dying in the process. But the Word-Bearers' true success during the heresy was not at Istvan or Terra, but during the Shadow Crusade, the events of which would tie up the three most dangerous loyalist legions, the Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines and their Primarch, Rabute Guilliman, were a particular sore spot for Lorgar, and while Guilliman himself was uncomfortable with the events of Monarchia, he saw it as his duty and was not his place to question. This event put a firm hatred of the 13th in both Lorgar and his legion, so when the attack on the Ultramar sector began, with the incursion at Calth, the carefully planned rituals and strikes and other forms of subterfuge were absolutely devastating, with nearly half of the 250,000 Astartes of the 13th Legion dying at Calth. But this was just the beginning, as when the world leaders would come to give the word-bearers aid, the realm of Ultramar would be subjected to near irreparable damage. However, the cracks would begin to show, as Erebus and Corferon would begin to pursue increasingly personal goals, often going against what Lorgar wanted directly. Erebus got so far out of line that he would not only be kicked out of the word-bearers by Lorgar, but by Horus as well. But Lorgar was not innocent from this either, as Lorgar realized that Horus was not the man for the job, and tried to pull off a coup that would fail, and Lorgar would not be at the Siege of Terra. And while some of the word-bearers would go to Terra, during the scouring after the siege inevitably failed, all the legions would flee to the Eye, and post-heresy, the word-bearers' roles as arbiters of the will of the gods would become more and more prominent. You see, unlike many of the other legions, the word-bearers did not fall into petty infighting. They stayed largely unified, both in structure and in purpose, and despite the fact that Lorgar had stayed in isolation in his temple for about 10,000 years, Lorgar and his motivation still spread throughout the Legion, through the Book of Lorgar, the various other writings he had, and the fact that everyone was acutely aware of what they were supposed to do. No matter how much they disagreed or almost came to infighting, the Legion would put that aside for their higher purpose, as to please the gods is the only existence worth fighting for. And that is why the word-bearers are so fascinating to me, because in practice they should sound like the clerics of the group, the moral and emotional leaders and nothing more, but that could not be further from the case, because during the heresy, like I said before, they were routinely effective in combat, especially with support from demons and mortal forces they often have. Yes, mortal forces, because more than any other legion, maybe except the Black Legion, the word-bearers constantly recruit new individuals to their cause, resulting in millions of followers serving the powers and spreading the prophecies and teaching that the Legion and its Primarch were chosen to do. It is my opinion, more than anything else, that there is not one chosen Legion or champion of chaos better than the word-bearers. Despite Abaddon being the War Master, that was a position he fought and took for himself. He is not interested in the goals of the gods, only to see the galaxy burn. But Lorgar and the word-bearers aren't like that. They were chosen by the gods, and the Legion itself, after learning the primordial truth, are perfectly performing the role the universe gave them. When you look at how they behave, they are more than just the religious Black Legion. They are more than just the Marines who have a better relationship with demons and summon them more often. They are zealots. They are the dogmatic, focused, and lawful warriors of chaos that follow the codes and truth of the universe that they themselves occupy. They are the definition of lawful evil. Make no mistake, they are evil. Burning people at the stake, kidnapping hundreds of thousands to slowly sacrifice over the course of years. It is absolutely barbaric, but they believe what they're doing is necessary for humanity, in beautiful in ways that we just don't understand. No matter how many atrocities they commit, they operate on a system of belief with tangible, achievable goals and are truly committed and devoted to their cause. So despite many considering them ineffective and sitting out the last 10,000 years, their recent re-emergence into the galaxy says quite the contrary, as they have been waiting, training, and doing their best to make the most of their skills over that time period. So when Abaddon broke down the Cadian Gate and let the Cicatrix Maledictum spread across the galaxy, the first Legion out of the Eye to really make a move was the Word-Bearers. Which brings me to my final point. Without the Black Legion or the Word-Bearers, Chaos would be an unfocused mess of a force. They are the yin to each other's yang. They are the two sides of the same coin. Where the Black Legion is the spear, piercing the heart of the Imperium and opening the gate for chaos, the Word-Bearers are the shield, shoring up the rear and making sure their holdings and servants are fully devoted to the powers of the Four. This is why they take such an active role in creating cults and spreading chaos. Not taint or pleasure or power, but chaos. The faith itself, written and preached by Lorgar. And that is truly their greatest triumph. Nobody can spread chaos better than the Word-Bearers. No one. Not even the Alpha Legion, the masters of subterfuge and influence they are, can match the sweeping scale of how the Word-Bearers can make entire sectors fall into the most loyal, decadent, depraved servants of chaos the galaxy has ever seen. They are so ungodly dangerous that Rabute Gilliman considers the Word Bearers the greatest possible threat to the Imperium right now. And considering the fact that their recent efforts and awareness of the Emperor's re-emergence in the form of the Star Child, they potentially have the best chance of finding the last light of the Imperium that keeps it together and snuffing it out forever. It is not only the Black Legion that will bring ruin to the Imperium, it will be both. And with Lorgar finally active within the Legion once again, it will only be a matter of time before the Imperium will begin to crumble under the grace and faith of a man who met God and saw that he hated him. If you want to learn more about the Word Bearers Legion, read The First Heretic, Betrayer, Lorgar Bearer of the Word, and the short story Aurelian, which was collected in the Eye of Terra anthology. These four are a great primer for the Legion and truly show the tragedy and philosophy of the Legion as well, alongside Erebus, Corferon, and Lorgar. It does such a good job breaking down these characters and showing their motivations, more than any other reading recommendations I have given for this channel. I beg you, these four are essential reading, not just for the Word Bearers, but for the entire setting. Past that, I'd say Space Marine Conquest Apocalypse is pretty good. It shows the Legion in the modern day and shows a little bit of the power struggle that's going on. And read the Dawn of Fire books, specifically Avenging Sun, Gate of Bones, and Throne of Light. These three feature the Word Bearers heavily and really show a lot about what they've been up to. And this, plus Apocalypse, is a really good modern companion piece to the four previous things. Also, the last thing, read the Word Bearers Omnibus. It's a bit older, but it is such a good series of books, and they're some of my personal favorites. Unfortunately, they are not available in audio format. I listen to mostly audiobooks because it allows me to do other things while I listen. I'm able to take notes and stuff like that. But these books are wonderful, and I highly recommend reading them. Thank you all very much for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a member. And thank you very much to the YouTube members for supporting the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great night.